Welcome. We are the Unhinged Book Society, a special channel hosted by me, Sarah, just for lovers of a domestic thriller. Last month in May, I read 6 thrillers. Today, we're going to go through all of them. I'll give you my notes. There are spoilers inside. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay, so May, typically a super crazy month for me, but just as a quick overview, I did finish all of the books. They all had at least 3 stars, and I did have 1 5-star. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to go in order that I read them and see what happens. The first book I read was The Unwedding by Ali Kandi. This is a Reese's Book Club pick. I have to say, I did like this book, but it's not something that I would go out of my way to read again. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I do like the premise of it. I'm always a sucker for like vacations gone wrong or like the seemingly perfect resort. I really did enjoy it. It just wasn't something that stuck out. If you're looking for a similar storyline, I would prefer to read The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. That one I did rate 5 stars before I read this one. And again, they kind of have like a similar feel to them, but that The Midnight Feast is just so much better, at least in my opinion. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this story. It just wasn't something that I'm still thinking about. I do think that this was very, very gripping from the beginning. The female main character finds the groom's body like floating in the pool super, super early on, and it is like very well written and detailed. It's just, again, I read a lot of thrillers, so it's not something that I'm still thinking of. Moving on to the new release that I read this month, that was Parents Weekend by Alex Finlay. I was super pumped to read this book as soon as I saw it. I mentioned it in a couple of other videos. I really enjoyed it. What surprised me though is originally, before I read what the story was about, I just assumed based on like the cover and the title that this was going to be about a group of parents that goes for a weekend away from their children, which is actually not at all what happens. It's all of the parents coming to university for like a parents weekend and their kids go missing. I do really, really like the story. I think it's very well kind of thought out. There are so many different dynamics. I really did enjoy that. This is the first book I've read by Alex Finlay, and I was able to read it super quickly. It is quite a page turner, but I'm not still thinking about it. However, the twists in here are really, really great. Once you figure out why all of the kids are missing and where they are, it does turn into a very like crazy second half of the book. So I did really like that. I would definitely recommend reading it. And I went ahead and rated this one 4 stars. Now, after I read Parents Weekend, I went straight into The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. This is the first and only book thus far that I have read by Freida McFadden, though I have several of her other titles in like my little stash. Wow, I truly avoided reading this for a long time because I thought that it was not going to be good. Like I thought it wasn't going to live up to the hype. I definitely thought it was an overhyped title. However, this 5.5 stars out of 5 stars. This book was absolutely amazing. The writing in it, the way that the plot twist, just in case you haven't read it and you didn't take my spoiler warning seriously, let me tell you, I'm about to spoil something big in the book. So I honestly did not see it coming that it was the husband making all of these moves and like doing these things to his wife and locking the housemaid in the attic. And like I just am, forcing everything to be the way that it was. It truly did shock me. I absolutely love that it was the landscaper that helped her escape at the end. Actually, well, helped both of the women in the story escape at the end. The ending is such a cliffhanger that I believe leads right into the second book. I did purchase the second book, but I haven't read it yet. I'm a little worried that that one's not going to be as good as this one. This was absolutely amazing. Chef's kiss. Cannot recommend it enough. The plots are insane. Like just the way that the whole story lays out, and once you figure out what's going on, I think about this book all the time, okay? I would highly, highly recommend reading it. Now, after The Housemaid, I followed up with A Death at the Party by Amy Stewart. I liked this. I thought that it was very beautifully written. The imagery is very pretty. It's like a very feminine story. You know, sometimes when you read different thrillers, they typically, I feel like, come, though they are women telling the story, they have more of like a harsh, like cut and dry masculine tone to them, but this was written super, super beautifully. I loved the relationship between the main female character and her mom. I thought that that was really beautiful. There were a lot of surprises. You know, I've noticed in a lot of these domestic thrillers that the neighbors are always watching, which I find to be very interesting. I just really liked it. I'm not still thinking about it, but I do think that it's worth the read. There are quite a few different turns that I wasn't expecting. And again, it's just written really, really nicely. So I gave this one a 3.7. It's a little bit higher than the 3.5, but not quite a 4. Then we had the novella, which is One of Our Own by Lucinda Berry. Now, I can tell you, I am a Lucinda Berry stan. I absolutely love Lucinda Berry. She has a couple of titles that I don't think that I will be able to read because I do draw the line somewhere. But this one was, it was pretty, gripping. It was pretty eye-opening. The thing that haunts me about Lucinda Berry is her stories could so easily happen to anyone. And I know I've said that before, especially when I talk about The Best of Friends, which I covered in this video here. You can go ahead and check it out. But it's just that her stories are so deep in real life connection that I find myself wanting to read them again, even though I know it's going to break my heart. And this one was no exception. So what happens in this particular story is there is a self-harm hotline operator that takes a call, and it ends up being someone from her town that her son goes to school with, and she has experienced some trauma at the hand of multiple boys at a house party. And through the story, she's kind of navigating, the operator is kind of navigating how to help her, but also trying to solve like who did it. And again, the ending, I don't want to spoil it, even though I told you that there would be spoilers. I don't want to spoil it for you because it just ends really on a sad note. Now, though I do still think about this, I rated her a little bit lower because I think that this could have been such a really great story had it been drawn out longer. But because of its length, let me see, I think it's only 100 pages. It's only 118 pages. So it was really, you know, everything, all of the whole plot, all of the character development, all of the imagery was really tightly packed in there. And I think that I would have preferred this to be a longer, full-length novel. Though I'm not the author, so take that as you will. I did end up rating it 3.5 stars, but again, I do think it's just because the whole thing kind of felt rushed for me. Okay. Now, this is the last book I read, and to be honest, I still have 20 pages left. I'm filming this on May 31st, so I still have about 30 pages left. I'll absolutely finish it tonight, and I'll be able to kick off tomorrow, June, with all of the thrillers that I picked from my June TBR video that you'll see right before, like it was last week's video if you're watching this one. So the last book I read was The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda. I am reading through Megan Miranda's catalog as I can, so I could do like a full deep dive and ranking of all of her titles. I will say that this has been my favorite Megan Miranda so far. I think that it is much more like surprising than her other titles that I have read. So I wasn't expecting that Avery was kind of like obsessing over Sadie's life. I wasn't expecting that. The way she kind of stumbles into the crime and the way all of that pans out is very, very interesting. I will say, as far as thrillers go, it's like kind of like a higher mid tier. So there's not like gore and a lot of like detail, but it is a really great title and I would recommend it. I'm going to go ahead and give it like a predetermination of 3.5 stars. So let me go through super quickly and tell you yes or no to each title. Maybe. Yes, but be prepared. You're going to be upset about how short it is. I would say yes, strictly for like the feminine energy that comes through. 100% yes. You should also read this title. And I don't know, maybe.